Welcome, gamers, to our show, The Tops, the show where we give you our top 5 answers to the question at hand. And on this episode today, we are doing the top 5 games that we played and beat in 2024. My name is Craig Perales. Joining me, as always, Mandrew Montemayor.
Yeah.
So, guys, just so we're always clear on it, it's games that we actually started and got a chance to finish. So, unfortunately, I have 2 things on my list, which is Black Myth, Wukong, and Stellar Blade. 2 games that I've started, and I just never got a chance to finish them. So unfortunately, those aren't going to be on my top 5, even though I'm sure they have the potential to be so. I wanted to ask, was there anything on your list that you, or that, not on your list, maybe that you started this year and isn't going to make the cut? Because I know we feel the same on Erdtree, right? Or Elden Ring?
Yeah, I didn't want to count Shadow of the Erdtree, even though I did beat that. Usually I kind of stick to one game at a time, and I always try to beat it before I move on to something else. So generally, I don't have anything unfinished.
Perfect. So with that being said, guys, we're going to do our top 5. We're going to go back and forth. So you're actually getting 10 games. So it's going to be Andrew's top 5 and my top 5 for the year. So with that being said, let's get started. Andrew, what is your number 5 game of 2024?
Before I get to number 5 really quick, I did want to do, and I think you had something written down too, just a quick honorable mention.
Because, you want to do them in the beginning? Okay.
Yeah, because I know I kind of harped on it earlier in the year, as many of you know. Paper Mario and the 1,000-Year Door.
That was this year?
Yeah, that came out.
Oh, the remake, right. Okay.
Yeah, the remake came out for the Switch this year, and that is one of my favorite games of all time. I did not put that in my top 5 just because it was it was pretty much like a 1-to-1 update remake with a few little changes here and there for like quality of life changes that I just didn't really felt like it constituted enough for me to put it on here versus I don't remember what we did last year. I don't know what the big changes were between, because I haven't played it yet, even though I have it, Mario RPG and what they did with the Switch. But there's a bigger gap in that between this and the GameCube version. So
Gotcha.
Either way, that game I did want to give a shout out because it is insanely good. It is just not on my list. But my number 5 is going to be Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Now, again, that was made by Machine Gameworks, published by Bethesda. This is Microsoft's big first game that's actually like really hit for them since they bought out Bethesda. Came out just recently, December 9th, and it was free on the Game Pass. Now, I actually really love this game. It was insanely good. The story was super good. It's just a little lower on my list, and I think maybe because I had more time to marinate on some of the other games, I had made this list and didn't think I was going to have time for Indiana Jones. So that one was kind of like a late sneak in. Plus, I know we had talked about it before. Indiana Jones for me is, I've only seen the movie that everyone says was the start of the decline. I think it's an alright movie. I haven't gone back and watched the others, so I don't have that like, oh my god, it's Indiana Jones, like whatever, but having beat it front to back now, even just based off the one that I've seen and the bits I know of the others, I feel like it is a perfect companion piece for those movies. It encapsulates everything that is Indiana Jones, from that old school humor where people are making jokes, or even sometimes it's the way they pronounce things, to just the way things were kind of in that timeline, to the over the top villain, especially to just anything revolving Nazis. I don't want to propagate for showing Nazi propaganda and stuff, but it is nice to see something in here that's not censored and in reality what it was, even though it's a crazy hyper stylized version of what Nazi Germany really was. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel like most modern games would do something like that, and then you don't actually see it because they try to be, I don't want to say sensitive is the word, but it's it is something that really happened and they did commit atrocities. So it is nice to not shy away from that. This game does have a lot of very dark sections. And again, too, I know we had talked about it before. I thought the title was extremely stupid, but now that I beat the game and everything and I understood what it meant, it makes perfect sense. And I'm like, man, maybe I was just stupid. I don't know. Either way, I really enjoyed this game, and I think it's definitely something that everybody needs to get out there and play.
Yeah, it was definitely in my top 10 for the year, and if you've got an Xbox and you've got Game Pass, it's definitely worth checking out. So, my number 5, but my shout out, if we're doing them in the beginning, 2 honorable mentions that I had one was Balatro, which was the kind of poker card game. Fantastic. I'm playing on PS5. Love it. I actually was able to beat it with the yellow deck, I believe, so far, and I'm still playing it with other ones. And then another game, if you've heard of it, or maybe if you haven't, check out Banisher's Ghost of New Eden. That was a really fun game too. So as far as my official 5 goes, it's Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, developed by Saber Interactive, and it came out on September 9th of 2024. It fits that perfect itch if you've been looking for a game that's like Gears of War, because you're playing these big, bulky, bro-like dudes. They've even got like a chainsaw sword that you can do and rip through all these different aliens. I'll just read what the gameplay is really about. In Warhammer Space Marine 2, the player engages enemies using a mix of both melee and ranged combat from a third-person point of view. The player controls Titus, a lieutenant of the Ultramarines chapter and returning protagonist from the first game. Titus is accompanied by fellow Space Marines Kyron and Gadriel throughout the campaign, who can be controlled by other players in the game's cooperative multiplayer mode or by artificial intelligence in single player. So I actually played it with my brother. But it's a 3-person game if you really want to get a couple buddies together and cruise through the campaign. I don't really know much about Warhammer, and if you look at their other list of games, the Warhammer games can either be the 40K or it can be kind of the fantasy, so there's a lot of different approaches they do. I don't think I played Space Marine 1. I think Geno actually did. But number 2 is a lot of fun. It's a lot of just quick, fast combat. There's multiple modes to play on, because when I'm playing it, the difficulty, there's a lot of like extra health packs that I wasn't using. So I could see that if it was laid out there, that this game does have a pretty steep increase in how difficult it gets. But it was a lot of just kind of dumb fun. Me and Geno on a headset. I mean, paying attention to the story is kind of weird in and of itself, because it has to do with these really weird, like, religious zealots, but they're still under, like, fighting for the emperor and things like that. So it's kind of a hard storyline to pay a lot of attention to and get exactly what's going on, especially since I didn't play number 1. But that was the fun of it, was getting online with Geno, grabbing guns, like we're ready for bosses to come out, we're fortifying positions, we're setting up all these things. It's like, all right, which gun do you want to use? What blade are you going to use? So if you are looking for something that's just a lot of good hack and slash and a lot of cool monster kills, because there'll be times where a prompt will come up, like a blue little light, and you'll have a chance to, if someone's going to jump at you, to like grab them, counter them, split their head open and things like that. So it's a lot of just fun, blood and gore, and beat it just in time. And I think the multiplayer has a lot of fun. There is things to do after the game. There is some PvP stuff you can do. I haven't dove into that yet, so as my 5 entry, it's just for the campaign. But if you were interested in checking it out, it's fantastic, and it did get a lot of love. The Game Awards, I know, it was in a couple categories. So for me, number 5 is Warhammer Space Marine 2.
Moving on to number 4. My number 4 was Kunsugami, Path of the Goddess, and that was done by Cap Gods, of course, putting out nothing but bangers. That came out on July 19th, and that actually also was a Game Pass game, and I want to give a big shout out to that, because I don't know that I would have jumped in, because this is an action real-time strategy game. I don't really do strategy games like this. I know you usually try to get me onto some, and normally I'm not that big a fan of them, and I think maybe I like this because of the action that's in it, because while you do set up your people and you can move them around, you're still going in and controlling yourself, either trying to like heal them, collecting items to help yourself, and fighting off these demons with your sword. And there's a couple different like fighting styles that you can use. Graphically, I thought it was a beautiful game. I really liked the concept and the idea of it, especially the demons that come out of this gate. And I really like the idea too of, I don't want to say like Inuyasha because it's kind of a different story, but some similar style of, you have this priestess that's going around trying to purge the defilement of like these lands. So I really, really liked that. Again, it was just a really good game that I wasn't expecting to like, because I'm not a strategy person. I did, and if you're maybe stuck on it or want to give it a chance, and maybe you're not into that too, I brute forced my way through it with just upgrading the archers was like the easiest thing to do. But there's all kinds of different levels too to mix it up too, so you're not always just leading the priestess from A to B. There's other ones where you're on the water and you're on a boat, and so enemies are coming at you from like different sides, and so you're defending a boat. There's boss battles in here, so it's got kind of a lot of different variations. And then even so, if you don't want to use the archers, there's guns, there's like summoners, there's even people that just go in there with hatchets and just go crazy too. So there's a lot of different variety for how you can play this game just to try to get through it. And again, I really ended up loving this one. I think you would really like it a lot.
I need to start it. I downloaded it, but I don't know why I never started it, but it's definitely a game that's on my to-do list. So my number 4 is Tales of Kenzera Zao. which is a 2024 Metroidvania game developed by Surgent Studios and published by EA under its EA Original labels. It came out on February 1st. Now, I did download Prince of Persia. We bought it, and I just haven't played it yet. And I know Prince of Persia is supposed to be like an excellent platform type game, but Tales of Kenzera, I thought is perfect for what I got a chance to play and beat it. It's a pretty unique storyline with this kind of I forget if he's a prince or not, but him trying to go through and like see his father again, and he kind of touches the other side of with life and death. But I know it did rub people the wrong way because it's not like a pure Metroidvania where the map is once you get there, the map kind of automatically opens up instead of having like an old Castlevania's
discover.
We've actually got to discover it and open up all the blocks. But for me, it's like that didn't really matter. There was a really fun story. There was a lot of interesting puzzles too, because that's one of my least favorite aspects of games is when it dives into heavy puzzles. I don't feel like any of these were too hard to figure out. I don't think I had to look up really anything. What was really cool is he ends up getting these two abilities, which is powered by like this blue and this red energy source, and it like brings things back and it breaks things. So the puzzles were kind of going back and forth with things like that. The combat was a lot of fun. The enemies, I guess, were a tad bit generic, but all the boss fights were a lot of fun. My kind of biggest thing I was looking forward to see if they do another game out of it. And then after doing some research on it, it seems that they actually laid off the big team, and it just says we decided to put the work of Surgent Games Division on hiatus while we secure funding for our next project. So it is unfortunate to see that they're not on the back burner, forever, but it does seem like I feel like they had some nice momentum, and I wanted to see what the next thing they could have done would have been, and it doesn't seem like we're going to get that. So if it is a game that you were interested in, and you like platforming, and you like that Metroidvania style, I'm sure Prince of Persia may be better than this game, and if I did play it, maybe it would replace it, but it made it into my top 5, and I think it's a lot of fun if that's the kind of gameplay you like, and I think you'd actually dig it too. I told Geno to buy it. I think he did. I think he actually started it, so it's a lot of fun with a really cool storyline that actually dives into like the family and things like that, so I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. I've been so drowning with everything else that I'm like, that's a bit.
2024 is a good year for games.
My number 3 for me is going to be Star Wars Outlaws. This came out August 30th, developed by Massive Entertainment and published by Ubisoft, who hasn't exactly been in the best place lately. Now, I know when this game came out, it had some issues. I personally didn't really have many problems with this game. I think the only time I had issues, I got stuck behind the door that I just had to like quit out and relaunch the game, and then it worked. That, and I think maybe a couple of shop things, the button prompts weren't working correctly. But other than that, I know since then they have gone back and fixed it. I know they've even changed some things. I know a lot of people weren't a big fan of the autofail stealth sections. And those I think have since been patched out, so I haven't played a modern version of it, but I do want to note that I do think Indiana Jones is a better game than this. For me though, I love Star Wars more, and I just had way more fun playing this because finally we got what me and Craig have been asking for. That granted, this might be set in that timeline that we hate, that we don't care about, like let's get away from those 3 movies, but it didn't have anything to do with it. That was my favorite part of this, is that I'm just this, just a thief, this outlaw, this person running, doing whatever it is, just trying to get by and make their way in a galaxy. And they're not
far away.
Yeah, and they're not picking a side either, because when you do meet the rebels and they're trying to recruit you, she blatantly comes out and says like, no, you're just as bad as the Empire, you're getting people hurt and you're using people just the same, you just have a different point of view. And I love that idea, because that is something that I don't think is like really explored, is that they are almost just as detrimental sometimes, or sometimes can be even worse. So it was really good just again to be out there and explore these amazing planets and worlds that I felt like were a good size, maybe could have been a little bit bigger, at least maybe on the next one now. I would like to see something of a grander scale, but for the size they were on this, it was exactly what I was wanting out of Star Wars. I personally liked the combat, even like the flying felt really good. I liked Kay Bess as a character. I know graphically sometimes she had that weird fucking Rocky Dennis chin, but other than that, it was a good-looking game. And again, just seeing, I think my favorite thing too is just seeing all the different syndicates. Like, that was really cool. I wish there was, I think my biggest thing is I do wish there was a little bit more repercussions for maybe double crossing some of the other people, but there is points where some of them do come to the head and people will challenge you to something, but then it's not like they're hunting you the rest of the game, but at least there's something. So I'm like, okay, you know, for a first step, this is great, and this is something that I definitely want another of.
Yeah, and it's cool because if you haven't played it yet, the big patch is out right now. So all the stuff that had a problem in the first week or two when it was out, all that stuff's gone now. So if you haven't played it, now is the time to jump in.
And I do want to say, too, because I think it's still on there, me and Craig actually bought this game full price, but because we didn't know at the time. But if you do have the Ubisoft Plus, or maybe you're sitting on the fence on this till they patched out the bugs or they had a sale, I'm sure it's probably on sale now because it's Christmas time still. But you could get the Ubisoft Plus thing plan for like $20, and then you could easily beat this game in under a month and then just cancel your subscription and give it a try and see if you like it that way. Like, at that price to enter, there's no reason you shouldn't at least be dipping your toes into this if you're a Star Wars fan.
Perfect. My number 3 is Rise of the Ronin, which is a 2024 action role-playing game developed by Koei Tecmo's Team Ninja and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment for the PS5. It's the third collaboration between Sony and Koei Tecmo after the Neo and its sequel, and it came out on March 22nd. Now, unfortunately, it kind of seems like this game came and went, and again, it's. I wonder if I beat Stellar Blade, if Stellar Blade would maybe replace Rise of the Ronin. What's up?
I was gonna say, as a part to your thing, do you think this came and went because people liked Ghost of Tsushima more and maybe was expecting more from this, or maybe it's just the time of the year? Why do you think?
Yeah, because I'm not too sure, because it's there's a lot of people that look at it like Neo and its sequel as like hard type games that you could maybe compare to things like Souls-like games like that. So Ghost of Tsushima is an easier game because I've beaten both of them. And Rise of the Ronin was difficult, man. And I wasn't playing it like on the hardest. I'm pretty sure there's level selecting on the difficulty. So I think maybe it just was kind of tough for people, but I was able to get through it, and those normally aren't the type of games I play when there's like a ramp in difficulty. Well, because what was really cool is there's multiple builds for your character. So I ended up going with like this cool fire build that I looked up online. It wasn't something that I invented, but I found like a really cool fire build. But there were times, man, where I was just getting my ass kicked by bosses because it really focuses on its combat system is what I thought was really cool. But there's a lot of like blocking you've got to do where that's not really the case in a game like Ghost of Tsushima. So I'm curious if maybe it was just the look of going, oh, who made it? And I'm not in the mood to play like a very difficult samurai type game.
I was like, probably not as hard, but almost like Sekiro isn't just straight combat. Like, right. You have to deflect with your sword and parry.
There's parts in the game where I was playing the beginning, I was getting my ass beat. I'm like, okay, hold on. So I started the game over, and I'm like, let me go through like the tutorial and the combat training and then get it, because if you don't, I don't want to say you don't have to master it, but if you're not using it, you're not going to win these fights. So I think that may be something which is, if that was something you're on the fence against, I would say do it, because if I could do it and had fun with it, and once you get the hang of it, it's rewarding. And they also have a grappling hook which you can actually incorporate in combat. So it was a lot of fun. I wrote down a couple of things that I liked about it specifically. One is just the period. It's a period piece game. It takes place during like feudal Japan, and it has all these different characters, and as the game progresses, you actually move through different periods of time. Now you can actually go back to different levels that you went through to kind of clear out the thing, because the second big thing I liked was it's got big open maps, and there's a lot of side content you can go do. So most of the time and you get a horse pretty early on, so most of the time when I was playing it, like instead of just going through the main campaign, I was exploring around. I wanted to make sure I fully checked the map. I already kind of mentioned the combat. There's also relics and things like that you can get in. There's multiple styles. There's like dual blades. There's big, large swords. There's maces. There's bow and arrows. So there's a lot of different weapons that you can kind of do that give you. And then again, if you find like full suits of something, you'll get bonuses for each extra pieces of gear you have stacked on. So it's a lot of fun if you like building up your character. I think it's got a really cool storyline, because in the beginning you can pick if you want to be the brother or the sister, and then that person plays a role in the game depending on which one you pick. So I think I had a lot of things going for it. Maybe also, Because I don't know, because that wouldn't be accurate, because Ghost of Tsushima was on PlayStation only. Yeah, it felt like it came and went and no one really talked about it. And by the time I know you would love it, but by the time I was done with it, I'm like, man, this game was a lot of fun, and you don't really see anybody mention it. So for me, it was one of the best games I got to play. Has the Japanese timeline, the combat, the builds. There's nothing about the game that was disappointing, except that it does have not a steep difficulty combat curve, but you do need to take notice of it. And I just had a lot of fun with it, and maybe eventually you'll get a chance to play it.
Yeah, maybe someday. My number 2 actually came at the start of the year, and that's going to be Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. That came out January 26th, and again, as always, done by RGG Studio, published by Sega. Now, this is the second in line of, since they changed their name to Like a Dragon. It's technically the 9th game in the series, but it is the second in line as far as them moving away from Like a Dragon, the primary titles, moving forward, or at least some of them being JRPGs. So you play this like you would play a Final Fantasy, where you have people with different classes and they do their abilities, and it's literally more of the same that you got from the first one, except for better. Except for your adventure now takes you to America. You end up in Hawaii, which is a big part of it. I really, really like the story. Again, I feel like RGG, everything they're doing lately, just knocks it out of the park. They're just such a good studio. Everything works. It's not broken. They fixed a lot of the issues with the first one, which weren't many, but there kind of was certain parts where you're like, man, dude, I really don't want to grind. They even add there's like a new mini game where you capture like people that are like the enemies that you fight, and you use them like Pokemon to battle people. And so like the hobo dude smells, and so that's how he gets rid of people. There's like a fire juggler, and so that's his thing, is he does like fire abilities. The surfer dude obviously does water, but then there's these weird people that are on the beach, like sunbathers, that make themselves like super oily, so that way that like they're harder to hit and they like kind of squeeze through. But if they get hit by fire, because they have the oil on them, they take more damage. So again, it really plays a lot of into that classic like Final Fantasy and even Pokemon style stuff, where this beats this beats that, and that beats this. It was a really, really good story, and I think it was a good, unless they do more further, I would like this to be, I guess slight spoiler, to be the conclusion to what we see with Kiryu wrapping up, and then taking Ichiban or whatever it is we're going to do and pushing these people forward, because he's already kind of been in however many games, since I guess 9 of them, plus all the side content too, that even moving forward, you can even do prequels to this thing leading up to it. There's just so much that they could do that I am dying for more. And I feel like maybe, I know it did get some noms at the Game of the Year Awards, but I feel like maybe most people, I haven't looked at anyone's lists, but I haven't heard anyone talk about it recently. And again, that's just kind of a shame for a game that was this good, but because it came out in like January. And I think you'd really like them a lot once you get to that point, if you want to play it, because again, and maybe that's why I haven't had like that Final Fantasy FOMO, is because I've had good RPGs from this studio, and another one I'm going to talk about the past few years. I'm like, yeah, I'm playing all these other things that some might even say are on par or better than what in whatever capacity is coming out. So
gotcha, yeah.
We're eating good over here.
Yeah, because that goes into my number 2, which was the JRPG Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which let me see, pull it up here, which was a 2024 action role-playing game developed and published by Square Enix, which is a sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is the second in a planned trilogy of games from the 1997 series. It came out, do I have an official release date on this one? I'll see if I can pull it up here in a second. It just says 2024. But it was a game, number 1 was, there was a lot riding on number 1, because a lot of people, because if this thing came out and failed, it just would have disappointed a ton of people. And when you're taking one of the most iconic games in history, which is Final Fantasy VII, pure and simple, there's no arguing that.
Yeah.
And then making a game that actually blew people's mind. Remake was really well done. And I think, too, got a tad overlooked, because we're number 1 kind of lit everything up on fire with all the new combat systems they were doing, the way they were introducing characters, how the world looked, how Midgard looked, how you're running into Sephiroth, and how these boss battles are going. It was the first time seeing it, where number 2 just takes all of that and just redefines the combat a little bit, makes it a little bit better. Obviously, you're seeing things like Sephiroth a little earlier in the game than you would have. It still kind of keeps certain characters out, like Vincent, which you'll end up getting later in the number 3 game. for when it came to comparing it to number 1, it's like, wow, 1 blew everything up. 2 just, I think, carried the weight of the story moving forward. So I guess you could, but I wouldn't recommend it. You need to play number 1 to understand what's going on in number 2, because what they do is they take that story and they just dive further into it. The adding of characters, especially there's the prelude with Yuffie, and the interlude that you get with her. Play that as well. That kind of ties in. So the way the combat, the way they redid it, the builds you can do, the way you can do acquire certain abilities from like your weapons and then leveling them up, it's a lot of fun, and I really want you to play it. One of the biggest things I think they're shooting themselves in the foot with, and I'm sure it's not their fault, it's the agreement I'm sure they did with Sony, is that it's not on Xbox yet. And I know a lot of people, especially you,
are waiting
for it.
I'm waiting it out. I know it's coming.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The way they dive into the story, because obviously I think they're very loyal to it, but with how big these games are, they have to take liberties and kind of add some things and change some things and do some alt history with it. And with that, and I won't say anything more than that because I don't want to spoil anything for you guys. But it's a fantastic game, and number 2 is just as good, if not better, than number 1. I just don't think it did anything new that blew people's mind like number 1 did. The combat's better. The leveling up system and what you can do, how you unlock things gets better. The way you get summons in this game is a lot of fun. There's so many things to do, and I know it just got like a fresh patch and everything. There's a lot of people replaying it now than in the beginning, and I'm hearing that it's even better. I kind of want to go back in and take a look at it, but there's tons of stuff to do in this game that you'll get lost. I mean, you get to see the golden saucer, and like when you get to go to the casino, which I know was a lot of people were waiting to see from the old game. When you see it fully realized, you're like, wow. And I'm very much excited to see what they're going to do with the third and final Fantasy. But yeah, this game was absolutely mind-blowing in all the things that they're able to show and kind of develop from the original game. So as a huge fan, Final Fantasy VII being my favorite game, this thing is well accepted and it's fantastic. And I just can't wait for like Geno to play number 2. I don't think he's played number 2 yet. I think he beat 1. I want you to play it and just take in all the Final Fantasy goodness. Because, yeah, when you get to start playing with Red 13 and, excuse me, and things like that, because you don't get a chance to play with Sid and you don't get to play with Vincent, although they do show up at the end. So number 3, I'm finally looking. Well, it's the same thing as number 1. You didn't get certain players. Like, you didn't get to play Red 13 in number 1, but now he's in number 2, in Yuffie. So I'm waiting to play number 3 where you can finally get the whole ensemble and see what they're actually going to do with that. But, hey, all in good time.
You think they're going to keep Sid smoking?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was smoking in that.
Oh, I didn't know anything about it. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's sucking down, he's blowing on the high one. So, yeah, great game.
My number 1 game of the year, and actually, I would probably put it almost cracks my top 5. I'd really have to sit down and think. Maybe even my top 10 favorite games of all time, because it was that good for me, is going to be Metaphor ReFantazio. Now, I do want to give a special shout out to Geno, because he actually bought this for me as a birthday gift this year. Yep. Nice. So, this came out October 11th, developed by Studio Zero, and published by Sega and Atlas. Now, for those of you who don't know, especially if you haven't played anything from them before, this is the studio that does like Megami Tensei series, or more popular is their Persona series. Now, I was never really this. I think Persona was it this year that Persona all just came to Xbox?
Yeah,
or was it on the Game Pass, or it was last year?
Yeah, last year.
Within the last year and a half, all the Persona series started coming over, so we already knew this game was coming. This game was actually revealed at an Xbox event, and Persona kind of looked alright. I didn't want to play any of the other ones. I'm like, I don't know if I want to go back and play something old. I know people really hype them up and they say they're that good, but I'm just not really interested in the whole like school scenario. So once this was revealed, and it was revealed to be a fantasy setting, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this looks really good. I'm going to jump in. I absolutely love this game. It is just so good, and I mean, from top to bottom for me, I personally loved it. I think the only thing I would maybe change to maybe make it so you don't feel as much pressure is
what would you know about
the day-by-day scheme of how you play this game, where like once you do things, it takes a certain amount of time away from you. So there goes your morning, your afternoon, whatever. Now you can only do something at night, and you can only do things at certain times during the day. I kind of use a guide to like maximize everything, so it wasn't like a spoiler guide. But again, it wasn't really a big problem for me. I think maybe taken away from that, but then again, I don't know, that takes away the heart of like what this game is. But this game, just again, top to bottom, absolutely beautiful. I love it. Gameplay wise, it looks a little, I don't want to say dated, but like a little bit older when you actually like move it around and stuff like that, but it's not really that big a problem. As far as when it cuts over to like the anime cutscenes or some of the other high version stuff, it's done good. I mean, this game really has everything. It's got, you know, religious zealots, it's got kings getting assassinated, you know, people vying for a throne, which is what there's a big contest for everybody competing to be king that you get thrown into. This game too has my favorite, and it's something I didn't really think about until I was playing this recently, my favorite pause screen of all time. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's so over the top that they didn't have to do it, but for whatever reason they did do it. I think my second favorite screen now would probably be the 007, like when you pause it and he looks at the watch, because that's super dope. And how often do you really think about, well, what's a good start screen, you know? Yeah. Once you see this thing, I'll have to show it to you afterwards.
I can't wait to play it and pause it.
It's so good. The music is good. And then even so, I love the combat. You get your group that you have, and you can make, obviously people excel in certain things, but you can make them do anything. So you can have your guy whose strength is his highest. If you want him to be the healer, he could be the healer. You can have him do whatever. I really like, it's called the archetype system is what they are. And so you have generalized ones like a seeker, you have a medic, you have one that uses like a gun, like a cannoneer. And then there's an upgraded version of each one once you level them up, like a sniper. And then from there you take some, like one of my favorite characters that you see in the trailer, Hulkenberg, she is a knight, so you upgrade her as a knight, but then you have to, for her upgrade path, for her personal path, and again, you can make everyone do whatever they want to, but I guess canonically they have a certain path, you know what I mean? So there's a mage, so if you upgrade her knight to what it needs to be, and the mage to what it needs to be, then you have the magic knight, so then she can like start buffing stuff. You could even take healing and add it into it. I personally actually really like the idea that once you level up an ability and you unlock it, let's say healing, I can inherit abilities into other classes. So if I just want to be a brute force guy or someone with high defense, I can take my healing stuff and maybe buff my party because I have the high defense, try to keep getting the enemy to attack this one person, and then when she gets low, she can heal herself and just kind of try to get the enemy stuck in a loop. And I like the overall idea. Again, this is a game that truly respects your time. I actually forgot to say about Like a Dragon, that if you are, and one of my favorite things that I don't think I see enough, is that if you are above a certain, if you're too strong for an enemy, and you go to fight them on the overworld, you'll instantly kill them. You still get XP for it, like whatever their 10 XP is, but you get all the rewards from it, which those are always like randomized. So you're not at a deficit for not fighting these people. So it's still worth it just for you to run around and like one-shot these people. And I just love that so much more than, damn it, now, or like that classic Pokemon style. Like I'm locked into combat. Now I gotta one-shot this guy. Now it's just wasting my time. You know, how many times do you run in, or even classic JRPGs, you know, you're locked in a battle, I'm just going to one-shot this guy, keep moving, now I'm locked in another battle, whereas this, you're just slaying him off the bat.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think this is a game that everybody needs to play if you're into JRPGs, and I know it didn't win Game of the Year, it did win, I think, Best Art Direction, but it did win IGN and GameSpot's Game of the Year, so I do want to throw that out there.
And it won the Game of Your Heart.
It is my game of my heart, my year, and like I said, this is easily in my top 10, I'd have to rework the list. I don't know what I could pull out of top 5 to put it in there, but I want to put something in there because I really love this game that I'm having a hard time right now because I have so much stuff that I want to beat. I want to go back and 100% it, but I would have to get to the back end of this game again in order to do that. And I'm like, I just don't want to put in that time, but I do so bad.
Yeah, it's a long one. So, excellent number one pick. And I looked it up. Final Fantasy VII came out on February 29th. So my game, and it would have been number one if it wasn't simply for my number one, which is Astro Bot, which was just a fantastic game, a platform game developed by Team Asobi and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment for the PS5 to coincide with its 30th anniversary, which came out on September 6th, which is perfect because the whole game is about recapturing that nostalgia and love for old school Sony and PlayStation devices. It's easily on par, if not better, than Nintendo when it comes to making a platform. That was kind of some of its best criticism that it got. That, you know, really for a long time it was only Nintendo and more specifically like Mario games which owned this kind of genre. Where when Astro's Playroom came out, it kind of, you know, opened up a lot of people's eyes and going, wow, you know, there's a team that's making something that's beautiful to look at, that has awesome music, and then does this throwback to old school Sony. So when you actually get to play Astro's Bot, it's on a much grander scale, and everything just looks beautiful. Some of the people were complaining that some of the bosses were just repeats from Playroom, and even though they made appearances, they all had new ways of how they were attacking. So it wasn't just the same robot. So it's not so much that the combat's a lot of fun, and there's cool bosses to do, but it's really just about exploring the levels and finding characters, because throughout the game you don't need to unlock everything to move forward. You do need to hit a certain progression before like the next galaxy will kind of open up, but the whole time you're unlocking people like Crash Bandicoot, like Solid Snake. You know, eventually you'll see like the Spider-Man and things like that. So it's a lot of fun just playing it. And I gotta say, where Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has much, in my mind, it's a more impactful game that means more to my heart in terms of the story and what it's coming from. But this game is a lot of fun, and because I got to play it with my nephew Grayson, we 100%ed the game. It's really just the fun of playing with it. I mean, there is challenges, of course. Some of the levels are really difficult. I'm not saying they're impossible. I mean, if you take the time and learn the strategy, they're doable, but there is some toughness to this game. And what was really cool is they because like Playroom, you'll find certain powers for certain levels. So in this game, you'll get like you can shrink down like a mouse, and you can explore certain things. There's like the rooster. There's like the dog jumping through. So it's got a lot of cool powers. And then with that being said, the levels designed to incorporate the power is a lot of fun. And the biggest thing that they've done is just give out some free DLC. They gave out all the time trial awards or maps for free. I think there was like 5 of them, and each of them had like a power that you had to use to kind of get through the level. And then they just did Winter Wonderland or Winter Wonder for the Christmas thing. And the more that I've noticed it, it seems like because you're in this galaxy and your ship crashes. It's the whole premise, and you're trying to rebuild parts, which are parts. Your ship is a PS5, so you're trying to beat all these bosses to get cool components to build your ship back together. But the more I notice it is that there's a lot more space on the map now. So it seems like they're going to keep feeding into this with DLC and things like that, at least over the next couple of years, because there's no doubt in my mind that this will get a sequel of some sort. Now, it was showing that as of November 2024, Astro Bot sold 1.5 million units, which is making it one of the best-selling PS5 games. So it's absolutely worth playing on the PS5. If you haven't yet, go check it out. The only thing that sucks, I mean, it's cool that it's an exclusive, but it just sucks that not everyone's going to get a chance to play it. I don't know if it's on PC yet, but I'm sure at some point it will be. And I mean, it got a lot of recognition. It just goes to show that you don't need to be this big, bloated, over-budget game. You can be something that's short, sweet, simple, and is good at what they know they were good at. When Asobi made this game, and a lot of people raised eyebrows when it was up for Game of the Year, they're like, oh, why? But we, Andrew, had this conversation over the last few months. It's like, if it was a Mario game, nobody would have questioned it. So the fact that they made something that's on par and kind of reinvented the mascot. Astro Bot, by definition, is this now cute Sony mascot that they have that they can now pair with every character. Because in the game, you get these levels where you go and you go play the Kratos level. There's the Nathan Drake level. There's the Horizon level. So when you get to it and you get to see all the Sony magic behind it, it's a lot of fun, man. And again, one of the games that I can't wait for eventually you to get your little paws on. But you saw, I mean, it looks good to you, right? I mean, it's...
Yeah, no, and I think it's really important, like what you said, is that he is that new mascot. He pretty much is, I think, what Sackboy was meant to be, because they did the similar thing with Sackboy, where he could be like Snake and all these different characters, took that concept with him, and for whatever reason with him, it just clicks, and it looks good. I mean, there's no arguing that people love it. Like, there's what's wrong with a love letter to a genre and truly like a passion project. Like, it does look good.
Yeah, it did make me go play Sackboy's Big Adventure right after I was done playing because I wanted to keep playing that type of game. So, guys, that is our top 5. Quickly, let's go through our list one more time. My top 5. My 5 being Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, 4, Tales of Kenzera Zao, 3, Rise of the Ronin, 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and number 1 was Astro Bot. And Andrew, what were yours?
My number 5 is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Number 4 was Kunsugami, Path of the Goddess. Number 3, Star Wars Outlaws. Number 2, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. And then number 1, Metaphor Refantasio, however some people are pronouncing it. Either way, get out there and play some of these games.
Yeah, guys, so there's a great list of games for you guys to check out if you haven't done any of them. Or, guys, leave down in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube and let us know about your top 5 games. Or if you've played any of these, where would you rank them, and leave your list down below. So, guys, that is the end of this episode of the Tops. Until next time, guys, my name is Craig Perales. That is Mandrew Montemer. Cheers.
We'll see you out there.